Every painter leaves something of himself in his work. Elias Vance left everything. This is the story of his last painting. And if you're watching this, it already came true. Elias Vance had been painting for 30 years. 30 years of mornings that smelled like turpentine and evenings that tasted like doubt. The galleries had a word for his work. Old-fashioned. The world had moved on to things that glowed on screens. Elias still believed in paint. The bank had a word for him, too. He was 3 months behind on a studio he'd rented for 20 years. Marta used to say his paintings would matter someday. She'd been gone 4 years now. Someday hadn't come. That night he walked home the long way. Painters do that when they're out of ideas. They go looking for one. He knew this street. He'd walked it 1,000 times. The shop had never been there before. Inside, time was for sale. Clocks that had outlived their owners, mirrors that had seen better faces, and at the very back, standing in its own light like it had been waiting, an easel. Black wood, older than the room around it. The carvings on its legs weren't decoration. They were fingernail marks. The old woman at the counter didn't ask if he needed help. She asked if he was a painter. When he nodded, she looked at him the way doctors look at bad news. She wouldn't take his money. She said the easel doesn't sell. It chooses. Elias laughed. He was the only one who did. That night, for the first time in a year, Elias wanted to paint. He painted rain, not because it was beautiful, because rain was all he felt. He fell asleep before it dried. The city had forecast sunshine. It rained for 11 hours, the exact 11 hours he had painted, from the church tower to the flooded square. Coincidence? Of course it was coincidence, but painters are gamblers at heart. So Elias made a second bet. He painted the one thing no gallery had given him in years, a red sticker, the word, sold. At 9:14 the next morning, a collector from Vienna called about a painting Elias had forgotten he'd made. He didn't negotiate. He was too busy staring at the easel. So he painted money, an inheritance from an uncle he'd never met. He painted a gallery with his name above the door. 2 weeks later, a curator called it a rediscovery. 30 years of silence, and suddenly the world couldn't stop saying his name. Marta had been right. Someday had finally come. It had just needed help. But every night, when the studio went quiet, Elias caught himself watching the easel. And some nights, he could not shake the feeling it was watching back. It happened on the first warm night of spring. Too much wine, too much success. Elias fell asleep in front of the canvas. The easel had waited long enough. That night, it painted through him. He woke at dawn with paint on his hands and no memory of using them. On the canvas stood a figure with no face, standing at a door. Elias knew that door. It was his. That night, at exactly midnight, 3 slow knocks. He didn't open it. By morning, the painting had changed. The figure was 1 step closer, and Elias understood the rules no one had written down. Whatever stands on this canvas at midnight happens. So began the war. Every night the easel painted its figure. Every day Elias painted it out. He stopped going to his own gallery, stopped answering Vienna. A man can't leave his post when the enemy works the night shift. He tried burning the canvas. It wouldn't take the flame. He tried an axe on the easel. The axe head shattered like glass. He dragged it to the river, threw it from the bridge, and watched it sink. It was back in his studio before he was. Still wet, still waiting. 3 weeks without a full night's sleep. The papers that had called him a rediscovery now called him a recluse. They had no idea he was a soldier. And every time he weakened, every night he dozed for even an hour, the figure took another step.